All right, so are you ready to dive deep into self-confidence today?
I am, yeah.
We've got this really cool speech from somebody who's not exactly your typical self-help guru.
Oh,
Like we're talking this guy, he was a soccer coach,
uh,
has a PhD, and now leads a major organization.
wow, that's a pretty unique background.
It is, and it's going to be super interesting to see how all those experiences kind of shape his view on self-confidence.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Our mission, if you will, for this deep dive
Okay.
is to find like that practical advice we can all actually use
Right.
to boost our own confidence.
Love it.
So the speaker, he starts off and he defines self-confidence as a skill,
Oh, that's interesting.
which I thought was really fascinating.
Yeah, because it kind of changes things,
It
right?
does,
And
yeah.
that's not like you're just born with it or you're not. It's something that you can develop.
Yeah, and he even goes as far as to say, without that skill, and I use the word skill intentionally, without that skill, we are useless.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty strong words, right?
Yeah, but I think he has a point.
I think so too, because self-confidence is kind of the base for everything we do.
It is. I mean, if you think about it, it's taking risks, pursuing our goals.
He is like navigating life in general.
Exactly.
But he's not all serious and lecturing about it.
Okay.
He's also got a great sense of humor.
I like that.
So he starts off by asking the audience, like, anybody go shopping and put on a pair of pants this week?
Uh-huh. We've all been there.
We have it. It's so funny because it instantly brings up those times when we're all like,
Yeah.
struggling with that negative self-talk.
Standing in the dressing room,
Totally.
debating for way too long.
Yeah, those jeans make me look.
Exactly.
We all have that inner critic, and he just kind of puts it right out there,
Yeah.
which I think makes it a lot more relatable for everyone.
Totally. But then how do we build that self-confidence skill?
Well, he talks about a few different strategies, and one of the first ones he highlights is repetition,
Ah, the power of practice.
right? He believes in that big time, and he even tells a story about this Colombian goalie that he coached.
Okay.
And this goalie, when they first met, apparently his hands were like stone,
Oh, no.
which is not exactly ideal if you're a goalie.
Right. Not a recipe for success.
But through practice, just kicking the ball against the wall over and over and catching it,
Okay.
this guy went on to play professionally in Europe.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is. Like, you think about how much dedication that took to go from stone hands to pro level.
All right.
It really makes you realize we can all do so much if we just put in the time.
It's true. We have so much potential.
Yeah. So what about you?
Hmm.
Is there any skill that you've been wanting to improve
Mm.
that you've been putting it off?
Oh, there's tons of things I've been putting off.
I know, me too. But what if you thought about it and were like, you know what, I'm going to commit to practicing that
Okay.
for just 15 minutes a day.
That's manageable.
It is. And I bet you would see some serious progress.
Yeah, you're right. I think we all kind of want those instant results.
Yeah.
And then when we don't get them.
We give up.
Exactly. But the goalie story, that's such a good reminder.
Yeah.
It takes time and dedication to actually see progress.
It does. It's like that saying, pressure builds diamonds.
Oh. Yeah.
And the speaker emphasizes that pressure,
Okay.
that willingness to kind of push through failure,
Oh, I do.
He says that is crucial for building resilience
Right.
and ultimately building self-confidence.
I see.
And he brings up some great examples like Thomas Edison and all those failed light bulbs.
Oh, yeah. Classic example.
It is. And then you've got J.K. Rowling and how many times she got rejected before Harry Potter got published.
Oh, I didn't know it was that many times.
It was so many. And I always think, like, can you imagine if they'd given up
Yeah.
after the first couple of setbacks?
We wouldn't have those things that have really changed our world.
We wouldn't. They believed in their vision so much,
Yeah.
even when people doubted them.
Yeah, and they kept going.
It's really inspiring. And I think it's a good reminder that even the most successful people have failed.
They have, yeah.
It's their ability to keep going, to learn from it.
To persevere.
Yes, that sets them apart.
That makes sense. And that brings us to another important part of building self-confidence.
Yeah.
How we talk to ourselves.
Yeah, that inner dialogue, right?
Right. And he basically says, we all have this tape playing in our heads.
Right.
Why fill it with negativity?
Exactly. If you're constantly putting yourself down,
Yeah,
how can you expect to feel confident?
that's true. And he tells this funny story about himself.
Okay.
He's in a university lecture, and the professor asks a question that he didn't know the answer to.
Oh, been there.
And he said he felt like a deer in headlights thinking, please, professor, don't pick me.
Oh, yeah, that feeling of panic when you don't have the answer.
The worst.
But then he contrasts that with, like, Muhammad Ali and his famous affirmation, "I am the greatest."
Yeah, talk about powerful self-talk.
Right. And Ali believed in himself so strongly, it's like he willed himself to greatness.
I love that.
I do too. And it makes you think, what if we approached everything with that level of self-belief?
What if we did?
What if we stopped with the negative thoughts and started replacing them with positive affirmations?
I like that. What could we achieve then?
Exactly. And he gives some good advice on how to start changing that self-talk.
Oh, like what?
He says, write down affirmations
Okay.
that really resonate with you,
Yeah.
or make a list of all your achievements.
So when you're doubting yourself, you can look at it.
Exactly. It's like a toolbox of positivity.
That's a great visual.
Yeah, so we've got repetition, pushing through failure, positive self-talk.
It's a lot.
It is. But there's one more piece we have to talk about before we move on.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's all about the people you surround yourself with.
Oh, that's important.
It is. He really believes that your social circle can make or break you.
I agree, yeah.
He even says, get away from the people who will tear you down.
That's a little harsh, but
It's true. Yeah. We all know those people who just drain your energy and your confidence.
the energy vampires.
Totally. But then there are those people who make you feel like you can do anything.
The cheerleaders.
Yes. And he talks about starting a new job and feeling a little unsure of himself.
Okay.
And he reread a letter he had written to himself during a time when he felt really good about himself.
Oh, interesting.
It's like he gave himself a pep talk from the past.
I like that idea.
Me too. And I think it's something we can all do.
How?
Think about a time when you felt really confident.
Mhm.
What were you doing? How were you feeling?
Yeah.
And then write all of that down in a letter to your future self.
Oh, that's a really cool idea.
So when you start doubting yourself,
You've got that reminder.
you do, of how capable you really are.
I'm going to do that.
You should. So now we've got repetition, pushing through failure, positive self-talk, and surrounding yourself with the right people.
That's quite a foundation for building self-confidence.
It is. Are you ready for the next layer of this self-confidence puzzle?
You bet. Let's keep going.
Okay, so now the speaker takes kind of a turn, and he starts talking about building confidence in others.
Oh, interesting.
And it makes sense because, he was a coach for so long.
Right. So he's not just thinking about himself.
Yeah, he's thinking about how to help his players develop their confidence too.
Yeah. And he really stresses positive reinforcement,
He does, and he actually says to catch people doing good.
which is so often the opposite of what we do.
It is, especially when the pressure's on.
We're so quick to point out mistakes.
And we forget to recognize the wins.
It's true.
Think about it. You're working on something. You finally nail this tricky part.
Yeah.
And all anybody says is like, oh, but you made this tiny formatting error.
Oh, it's so deflating.
It is. And the speaker says by focusing on the positive,
Okay.
we can actually have a bigger impact on people's confidence.
I could see that.
And he tells his story about how he completely changed his team's performance just by focusing on what they were doing right
Oh, wow.
instead of what they were doing wrong.
So he actually saw a difference.
He did. And the best part is he's got research to back it up.
Oh, cool.
He talks about this study in Kansas that showed huge improvement in basketball players
Okay.
when the coach is focused on, positive reinforcement.
Interesting.
So instead of immediately pointing out what somebody did wrong,
Yeah,
what if we praise them for what they did right?
that's a good point.
It's a total shift in mindset.
It is.
And I think it applies to, everything, not just coaching.
Right, like parenting.
Yeah, teaching, even how you interact with your friends,
It's about creating that positive environment.
where people feel supported.
Yeah, where they can try things without fear of being criticized.
Exactly.
So the speaker's last point
Okay,
is all about perspective
I like this one.
and how confident people interpret feedback.
Yeah, and he uses this really funny example
Okay.
about his son, who he says is by far a terrible, terrible athlete.
Oh, no.
But his son always thinks he played a great game.
Uh-huh. I love that.
Right, and the speaker even quotes his son saying, oh, great, I scored 3 goals. I got 2 assists.
Okay.
And the speaker's like, I did not see him touch the puck.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But here's the thing. He doesn't, trying to crush his son's enthusiasm.
I'm glad.
Yeah, he actually admires it.
Okay.
He admires his ability to just see the positive.
Even when maybe the reality is a little different.
A little bit, but it's a great point about how we can choose to interpret things
Right.
in a way that helps us. And it's not about ignoring constructive criticism.
Right. It's not about being delusional.
It's about focusing on the good and using feedback to learn.
I like that.
And he even shares this story about how he totally misinterpreted feedback.
Okay.
And it actually worked out for him.
Really?
Yeah, he was pursuing this woman, and she kept rejecting him. She even
Oh.
told him she wouldn't date him unless it was the last person on Earth.
Oh.
And hell was freezing over.
That's hard.
But instead of taking it as a hard no,
Yeah.
he chose to see it as like, so you're saying there's a chance.
Uh-huh, I love it.
I know, and guess what? They end up getting married.
No way.
It's the power of positive thinking.
That's amazing, but how do we do that?
Well, he says it starts with recognizing our own thoughts.
Okay.
When you get feedback, good or bad, take a second and think, how can I use this to help me?
To help me grow.
Exactly. It's about looking for the opportunity in every situation.
I like that, even when you feel criticized.
You can choose to find the lesson.
And move forward.
Okay, so before we wrap up, I want to mention what he says at the very end of his speech.
Okay, what's that?
He says, no one will believe in you unless you do.
That's powerful.
It is, and it ties back to everything we've talked about.
Right, it starts with believing in yourself.
It does. So here's a question for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
What is one area of your life where you need to believe in yourself more?
Yeah, it really gets you thinking, It does. Like, what are we holding ourselves back from because we just don't believe in ourselves enough?
Yeah, and it's easy to fall into those negative thought patterns,
It is.
especially with all the messages out there about what we should be doing.
Right, like there's so much pressure.
There is, but this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
it's a good reminder that self-confidence, it's not like a destination, it's a journey.
Ooh, I like that.
Right.
You're always working on it.
You are. It's something you keep developing.
No matter where you are in life.
Exactly. And it's not about being perfect either.
Yeah, nobody's perfect.
Right. Or never having self-doubt.
Because we all do.
We do. It's about having the tools and strategies to deal with those doubts.
And to come out stronger.
Right. And going back to one of the speaker's main points,
Okay.
the fact that self-confidence is a skill,
Yeah, not just something you're born with.
it's such a different way to think about it.
It is.
I mean, anyone can build their confidence.
If they work at it.
Exactly. And I think you can see how his background as a coach and a PhD and a leader
Yeah.
really comes through.
He's got that whole well-rounded perspective.
He does. He blends practical advice with these really inspiring stories.
Not even some humor.
Yeah. And it keeps things from getting too heavy.
It makes it feel more real.
It does. It's like he's been there, done that, got the T-shirt,
Yeah, he's got the battle scars.
battle scars of self-confidence.
I love that.
I do too, because we all have those moments where we, mess up or fall down.
Yeah, we make mistakes.
We do, but it's how we get back up
Right.
that shows our self-belief.
And what I really liked about his message
Yeah.
is that it's not about being confident all the time.
Because that's not realistic.
It's not. He acknowledges that self-doubt is normal.
It's part of being human.
Exactly. And it's how we choose to handle it.
That matters.
That makes the difference.
Okay, so before we end this deep dive,
I'm ready.
I want to leave you with one last thought from the speaker. He ends his speech with this quote from Apple's Think Different campaign.
I love that campaign.
Me too. And he says, here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes. We're supposed to be different, folks.
That gives me chills every time.
Me too. And it's so fitting because it reminds us to embrace our individuality.
To be ourselves.
Exactly. And to not be afraid to stand out.
And that ties back to self-confidence, right?
It does. It's about believing in yourself, even when you're different.
Even when you don't fit in.
And having the courage to go after your passions, even if they're not, the norm.
Yeah, that's so important.
It is. So as you go about your day,
Yeah.
remember those words. We're supposed to be different, folks.
Be different, be you.
Embrace your uniqueness.
Believe in yourself.
And don't let anyone dull your sparkle.
I love that.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into self-confidence.
It was a good one.
It was. And we hope you learned something.
And that you're feeling a little more confident?
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep being awesome.